Hey everybody, Stu here. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about tone. And I've received some compliments about my tone. It's like, hey, that's a nice tone and everything. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about tone because it's something that's very subjective in nature. Some people are going to like your tone, some people are not going to like your tone. And that's just how it is. But really, tone, your guitar tone, is your representation of how you play the guitar. Guitar tone is best served when it's served for you and your playing and your style. So what goes into tone is everything from your hand all the way to your speakers is going to have an effect on your tone. And what I mean by that is how you hold the pick, how you strike the strings, what kind of strings you use, your pickups, what kind of guitar you're using, what kind of wood the guitar is, what kind of cables you're using, and everything else through the signal chain. So when talking about my tone, and thank you for everybody who did compliment my tone, what I want to go over is just what I'm using and how I approach amps. Like if you were to just give me something that's not a Hughes and Kettner Switchblade or something like that, how I would go about finding a tone that works for me. So with like a Hughes and Kettner amp, most of the time what I'm going to do is go through and set everything to noon. Set all my knobs to noon. And this is something that I feel is pretty universal. I feel like a lot of people will do this. Well, they'll take all their EQs, kill all effects. If there's built-in effects into the amp, don't have any of those on at this point. But set your presence, treble, mid, bass, gain, everything to noon. Because amps are going to react differently depending on what kind of tubes there are, preamps. Is it solid state? Is it valve state? Is it an all tube head? And then how they're all biased. And the head to head to head to head is going to be completely different. So set everything to noon and you're going to have a pretty flat sound. I'm not really going to go over everything just because I believe that there are a lot of YouTube videos on how to dial in tones on here. Just a couple of things that I've noticed that I tend to always kind of find is master volume on the channel volume. I like to have cranked up pretty much all the way. I like to push the channel volume a lot, and then I keep my master volume that's there for little fine adjustments. So that's always floating around like 1 or 2 or something like that. But I like the channel volume all the way up. Presence, depending on what kind of amp it is, I always have it to the side that gives a sharper tone, something like this. Something like that, as opposed to rolling it the other way. That's generally how I like to do my tones. And to achieve that, my treble is always, for the rhythm tone, is up pretty high. I like having, like I said, that sharp cutting tone to get through, the bass, the vocals, the drums and everything. I don't like super bassy because then you kind of just meld into like what the bass guitar is doing and what the kick drums are doing, especially in metal. And there's a lot of synchronization in metal, especially, where everyone's doing the and you don't really want to be lost in that. You want to be on the higher end. Mids, I always have less than noon. I pretty much always kind of float between like 9 and 11, depending on the head. You don't want to kill mids all the way. You don't want a super scooped sound because then you lose a lot of definition in the lower strings. If you want to play anything technical or have anything fast, you need those mids to be able to differentiate between all the notes. If you cut out all mids, you scoop those all out, then it's just going to sound like a muddled pile of crap. Bass is the one that is probably the one that I float around the most with. This one, at least to my ears, it's really dependent on the amp. The Hughes and Kettner Switchblade is a super bassy head, and I don't like if you do the, I don't like that that huge reverberation that happens if you turn the bass all the way up. So the bass on this I actually have turned to about 10 o'clock. I don't have it cranked up super high just because it will get pretty wobbly after that. Gain for this video is turned all the way up. Just because of the tone that I have here is something that's pretty good for me just jamming here in my room. So this is something that I can, jam a little rhythm on. I can also hit some leads. I can hit some solos. I can do all that stuff, just hit it up. If I'm just dicking around. A quick side note, all of my original songs, if you go to my playlist and you listen to the original songs, all of those guitar tones are not done with a real head. Those are done, all those songs are completely done on my iPad. I hook my guitar into my iPad and the bass guitar into the iPad, and I'm doing everything through apps. I do all of the drum work, which you can tell is not the best. I know that, but the drum work, the guitar work, everything, the mixing and the mastering is all done on my iPad. If you guys want, comment below, let me know if you want me to do a video on how I get all of those tones on my iPad, because I thought that was going to be easier to do it. Turns out I had to spend a lot of time within the apps to get those tones. But I digress. Now that we have just kind of like a basic layout of everything, of just how to dial in your tone, like I said, it's tweaking. Set your channels to, set your dials to noon, and just tweak around like that. There's a million videos on YouTube going over that. I'm not going to waste your time and do another one like that. But now what we want to do is, you may be asking, Stu, the tone's fine and everything, but what about the pedals? That is part of the signal chain that is very important, because pedals are not just distortion and overdrive pedals. There are EQ pedals, there are sonic maximizers, there are noise gate pedals, there are effects pedals that you can run in either before the preamp, you can run it through your effects loop and have it after the preamp. And there's schools of thought on what pedals need to go where. There are a few that are pretty much untouchable, that you kind of have to follow a certain way. That's a topic for a different video. But let's go over my signal chain that I'm using here to get this tone, starting from the very beginning. The picks that I use are Fender celluloid picks. I know people are probably going to give me a lot of crap over this, but I have tried so many other picks. I know people have given me crap and they go, try my picks. These are great. Here's a Jazz 3. Here's this, and this is made out of this. I've tried so many different kinds of thickness and materials and stuff, and I always come back to these. A few reasons why, and I can discuss that in a different video if you want. So that's going to go into my Ernie Ball strings. I've tried other strings. I just keep on coming back to Ernie Ball. I love the feel of them. Just the regular old Slinkies, man. That's just what I like. And then on this Ibanez Prestige in laser blue, we got DiMarzio pickups here. And then I'm coming out of the guitar, and let me show you the pedals that I'm using here. Hold on one second. Let me follow the chords here. All right, so now we're gonna lift up, and the chord goes straight into the head. No pedals being used. So maybe now you'll listen up a little bit. The reason why I don't have pedals in this particular setup is I'm just room jamming. There's really no reason for me to have pedals here. Also, I left my pedal board. I had this nice big pedal board with a few pedals on it. I was never really a big pedal user to begin with. I left it over at a buddy's house. I forgot about it. And then when I remembered, when I was looking for my pedal board when I moved, I was like, did I leave it at his house? And I called him up and I'm like, hey man, what's up? And he's like, no, I don't have it. So now my pedal board and pedals are gone and I have no idea what I did with them. So I'm going from my guitar directly in to achieve this sound. Now, is this tone that you hear now? Is that what I would use if I went on stage? No, it's not. Changes that I would make when I would play live. This is a MIDI head. It can be MIDI controlled. So I had a pedal board here with certain banks, but I had 4 presets available to me. So my first preset would be a clean tone. Then I would kick my compressor on the pedal board for that. Then I would have my rhythm tone. And then the rhythm tone I would keep, but I would kill all of the delay that you hear on it and most of the reverb. Have a little reverb on there. I do like a little reverb on my rhythms. But as far as equalization goes, I would keep it pretty much the same. For lead tones, I would kill the treble a little bit because you can hear like right now. Little thin, a little too much highs on there. Like I said, it's serviceable for me jamming around in here, but to go up on stage and have stuff going through the PA and have that much treble on there really isn't practical. So I would definitely kill the treble on that a little bit. I would turn the reverb up fairly high depending on what kind of a lead I'm doing. So we have the clean, rhythm, lead, and then I would have the solo tone. And the solo tone, what I would do is I would basically have it the same as the lead tone, but I would dial back on the reverb, get the delay where I wanted it, delay levels on there because I like delay when I do solo work. Give it a volume boost. You may be asking the difference between lead and solo tones. That has to do with what you're asking of the part in the song and how you want that to meld in and mix in with everything else in the song. That's probably, in the interest of time, if you want, let me know. I can make a video on that because I don't want this video to get any, too much longer. So now we're gonna get on the idea of tones. And the idea of tones is you need to find the tone that works best for you and your music. You're the guitar player. You're what people are going to hear. I mean, the drummers are going to listen to drummers. Bass players are going to listen to bass. But the guitar players and people as a whole, the general public is going to be listening to guitars. That and the vocalist. They may want to hear a sweet guitar solo, or they hear the riffs and stuff. They may go dun 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 dun. Even though, I mean, that's just what you're going to do. So you have to have the tone that works best for you. Don't listen to what anybody else says. Do not have fear that your buddies may hate your tone. You may get shit. Once you get off stage, people are going to come up to you and go, hey, great songs, but your guitar tone sucks. Fuck them, man. I mean, that's the point of metal, is to not do what everybody else is doing. You can be a huge Periphery fan. I'm a huge Periphery fan. I think Misha Mansour is awesome. I've been following Bulb on YouTube for a long time now. Always found his style very interesting. But you know what? His tone, I like his tone for him. That's not my gig. That's not my realm. So I stay in my realm, which is, I understand it's more of an outdated, kind of a thrashy tone and everything. But hey, man, that's what I like. That's what works best for me. I have technical riffs and everything like that, and I just put it through my tone and what I like to my ear. And that's the most important thing. What you don't want to have happen, I'll never trash anybody's tone if that tone is working for them. And you see them on stage and they're rocking out and they're playing their songs through their tone, through their equipment, and they're rocking it. Even though it may not be my personal choice to my personal taste, hey man, it's working. I'm rocking out. I'm having a good time. What I don't like is when I see bands playing and clearly this person is trying to emulate or imitate somebody else's tone or somebody else's playing style, and it becomes a little fake, and then what it does is it makes the performance hindered a little bit. Like, I don't know if this is going to make sense, but what really kind of bugs me is when I'm watching somebody play and I'm like, this is a little awkward because this dude's trying to be Eddie Van Halen. I can see he's got like a 5150 back there. He's playing through, a Music Man guitar and everything. I can see he's got the Phase 90 over there, but they're not doing Van Halen covers. They're playing metal, but I don't know. There's just something a little lacking because that player is not doing their own taste. They took a guitar tone that they really liked them, and said, wow, that's cool. I want to do that. And now they're just emulating it. I don't know if that really makes sense, but that's just something that when I'm watching somebody and they're just trying to imitate somebody and playing through a different tone that's not truly theirs, and it's just weird. But go ahead, find your tone. Don't rely too much on pedals. Find your tone with as little as possible. The beauty of having it this way now is when I now I have to buy a new pedal board, new pedals and everything. But once I do that, now all I have to do is kind of sculpt it a little bit. Just put some finishing touches on the tone. Because the head, you're not going to get a perfect tone out of a head. But if you can get it pretty close and you're within the ballpark, and now all you have to do is have a few pedals to tone it out, and then maybe a wah pedal and a noise gate to control the gain and feedback and everything, dude, you're in business. You really don't need to show up to a bar gig with an Axe Effects that's still running through an angle head, then in a massive pedal board with 50 pedals on it, and you're only ever going to touch fucking 2 of them, just to get a sound that I could easily achieve with this simple rig right here. So do it with as little as possible and then shape it. And that's my personal philosophy, and it hasn't really steered me wrong at all. I'm comfortable with playing. I'm comfortable with soloing on my tone. I'm comfortable with sweeping. I'm comfortable with playing fast, with playing slow, playing clean, playing fast stuff, chugging. So find your own tone. Play what's comfortable to you and what is best in your ears when you play that makes your fingers run fluidly. And the world will open up much better if you're playing through your tone and not through somebody else's tone. So that's about it for this tone chat. If you have any questions or comments, just comment below, let me know, and I'll check you in the next video. Peace.